Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott, in today for Julia Janae. Is Lindsay Clancy criminally responsible for the murders of her 3 children, or was she suffering from postpartum psychosis, as the defense alleges? In recent days, jurors have heard from multiple healthcare providers who treated Clancy, providing a window into her mental state in the weeks leading up to those killings. On the stand now is a therapist who treated Clancy in the months leading up to the killings. We want to pick up where we left off with the cross-examination of Miss Dukes.
Again, I could do what I did before.
She probably had it before.
Right. It references providers' interventions, and that would that be you, provider?
Correct.
And you're talking about symptom management, and yet again, she's reporting she had a difficult weekend, experienced intrusive thoughts, wanted to die, didn't have a plan for suicidal plan, but she contacted crisis over the weekend, and that would be, again, Aspire, apparently, right? Because there were 2 times she contacted Aspire, not once.
Correct.
Twice. Both times they told her that there's nothing they could do for her, right?
Correct.
And she told you that she was going to start a PHP in Norwell on December 20th, right?
Correct.
But in fact, you were able to, knowing people that you may have and pull strings, you were able to try to get her into the Rhode Island Women and Infants program, right?
Correct.
Which is a really pretty good program.
Correct.
And you know that she did, in fact, go to Women and Infants on December 20th. She didn't go to the Norwell program. She went to Women and Infants program, and that she was there for the day, and that they basically turned her away.
I did know that she went to the Women and Infants program. I was not sure of the date.
Okay. So if I suggest to you it was the same date that she had told you that she was going to go to the program in Norwell on December 20th, and then that you and Nicole Harden Francis reviewed various options, one of which was that, which made sense, to attend the Women and Infants program, IOP or PHP program, right?
Correct.
And that she, patient, provided you with verbal consent.
Correct.
To sign whatever had to be signed and get her into that program, right?
Correct.
So you know that she did on December 20th, after not getting anywhere with Aspire ×2, and after dealing with Jo-Anna for all those times that she dealt with her, the other one, Tufts, you were trying to get her into this program, which would be pretty good for a woman that had postpartum problems, right?
Correct.
And you made your referral, you opened the door for her, and she got in there to at least be interviewed, right?
Correct.
And they didn't take her, right?
Correct.
You know why?
I am not aware as to why.
Would you be surprised if I told you that they indicated could not help her out because their diagnosis or secondary diagnosis was that she was over-medicated?
Repeat the question.
Would it surprise you to know that they indicated that they couldn't treat her as a woman with postpartum psychosis or postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety or any of that, because their opinion was that she was suffering from an over-medication?
It would submit, yes.
But you don't know?
I do not know.
Okay. Did you know that the records from Women and Infants indicate that, in fact, on that very same day, they reached out to Nurse Gelada and asked her to call them so that they could discuss the medication, and Gelada never got back to her?
I was not aware of that.
I'm sorry?
I was not aware of that.
Okay. I think the district attorney had asked you a question about the last time that you saw her or had any activity with her was on December 19th. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And I may have misunderstood. She asked you, the times, and she never got back to you that day, or is that just a list of different things that you did for her?
That's a list of different things that I did for her that day.
Okay, so you were calling other contacts, you were talking to Patrick, you would contact her. I mean, she certainly was not avoiding you. That's
yes, we were in communication.
All right. You're familiar with, maybe you are, the what's called the Edinburgh scale?
I'm aware of it, yes.
And did she have the Edinburgh scale administered to her, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. What is polypharmacy? What does that mean?
Polypharmacy?
Yeah. You ever heard of that, polypharmacy?
I've heard of it, but not sure of the exact definition.
Okay. Is it something to do with having too much medications thrown at you all at once? If you know.
No, I'm not sure.
Not sure. Okay. Excuse me for 1 minute. Apologize. I just had something pulled up and it just went back to default on me, so I just need a second. I apologize. I get it. And how long have you been working in your particular field?
Since 2011.
Okay. And you have obviously a very impressive background as far as your educational background and your experience. Do you continue with continuing education?
Yes.
Have you ever been aware, are you aware of the Mass General Hospital Center for Women's Mental Health?
I am aware of it, yes.
Do they offer seminars and programs as well as research articles?
I believe they do.
Okay. Do you know that Mass General Center for Women's Mental Health about a year ago issued a fairly major study and various recommendations for people that are dealing with women that have postpartum periods and how they break up the periods? You familiar with that?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
So if I suggest to you that in that particular Mass General Hospital article, it goes on about postpartum period, and do you agree that the postpartum period, 85% of women that are pregnant or after pregnancy experience some type of mood disturbance? Would you agree with that?
No, I wouldn't agree with that.
All right. Would you agree that 10 to 15% of women develop more significant symptoms of depression or anxiety?
I agree.
And then postpartum psychiatric illness is then divided into three categories. One sounds like something out of the 50s, postpartum blues. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
You've heard that expression before,
Correct.
right? And it can be bothersome, it can be aggravating, it can be intrusive, but it's not threatening the life of the mother or a baby or anybody else, right?
Correct.
And it's fairly common, right?
Correct.
Number two would be postpartum depression. Now, that's a different issue, correct?
Yes.
And number three would be postpartum psychosis. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Now, postpartum depression, prior to morphing, if you will, into postpartum psychosis, consists of a number of symptoms, symptomology, right? For you to diagnose a woman, whether she's pregnant, has the baby, or after having the baby, with postpartum depression, there are certain things that are symptoms that you look for, right?
Correct.
Joining me now from Oakland, criminal defense attorney Jo-Anna Nieves. Jo-Anna, thank you so much for being on with me on Court TV today. It's great to see you. And listen, I want to start, I'm going to get to that cross-examination, but first I would love your opinion of the overall prosecution's case that may be wrapping up soon and all the evidence they've been presenting about this mother's actions in killing her 3 children.
Sure. Hi, Judge Ashley. It's so good to see you. The overall impression that I'm getting is the prosecution's witnesses, the testimony is cutting both ways and it's leaning into the defense's overall theory. Of course, we're going to hear the prosecution say, look, all of these clinical providers, no matter what form in which they were treating her, they did not observe psychosis. They didn't diagnose psychosis, and they were treating the symptoms that were presenting. But overall, these experienced professionals did not come to the conclusion that she was suffering from PPP or something related. Now, the defense is going to take that and kind of flip it on its head and say that therein lies the problem, because so many of people who were responsible for identifying what was going on with her and her obviously deteriorating state failed to do so. And the defense doesn't have the burden of proving retroactively that she was suffering specifically from PPP. They just have to raise the doubt that she was criminally responsible for the acts that occurred. And with all of the symptoms that were presenting, it's pretty obvious that she was suffering from some serious mental health medical condition that kind of led to the circumstances that we have now.
So let's talk about specifically Letitia Duke. She's a therapist that did treat Lindsay, but she testified on direct examination that she did recommend that Lindsay go to a higher level of care. And we know through cross-examination that she apparently tried to go to inpatient. She was told that because she didn't have a manner or method plan for suicide, that she would not be admitted to that. So my question is, how effective do you think the cross-examination has been to lead the jury down the path path of no criminal responsibility because of the mental health issues and a psychosis postpartum?
I think what the defense attorney is doing, and he's doing a good job of it, is kind of drawing out that process of what happened, all of the things that she was seeking help for, and in instances being turned away. I think what he's highlighting is this fragmented approach to her treatment. Some of the providers weren't looking at the other doctor's notes, even if they had access to them. They're treating these symptoms that she's reporting: insomnia, depression, numbness, detachment, and they're with pharmacologically, but they're not necessarily determining what that underlying disease is so that they could treat the actual illness. And that is really what I think is going to stick with a number of jurors.
Yeah, I agree with you. This jury's going to have a hard decision to make, but again, we haven't heard from the defense yet. We are still in the prosecution's case. Jo-Anna, stand by if you would, please. We need to take a quick break. When we come back, we will take you back into court for more of the cross-examination period of the Letitia Dukes. Stay tuned. Multiple witnesses have taken the stand to testify to Lindsay Clancy's mental state in the months and weeks leading up to the deaths of her 3 children. On January 24th of 2023, Lindsay Clancy strangled her children, Cora, Dawson, and Callan, using exercise bands inside the family's home. We want to take you back inside that courtroom now for more testimony. Still on the stand for purposes of cross-examination is mental health therapist Letitia Dukes.
Depressed or sad mood, right?
Yes.
Lindsay had that, right?
Yes.
Next would be tearfulness, right?
Yes.
Lindsay had that, right?
Correct.
Next one would be loss of interest in social activities or usual activities or friends. She had that, right?
Correct.
Feelings of guilt. She had that, right?
She didn't express feelings of guilt.
Okay. Feelings of worthlessness. Did she express that she felt worthless?
She did not express that.
How about fatigue? Did she have that?
She did not express fatigue, but lack of sleep.
I know lack of sleep. Were you aware that, in fact, that she had indicated that she was so wiped out that she couldn't even get out of bed, couldn't put her feet on the ground, and if she did, she felt heavy?
I did not hear that from her.
Okay. But you mentioned it. You got it. Sleep disturbance is another issue, correct? She had that, right?
Yes.
Change in appetite. She had that, lost 10, 15 pounds, right?
Yes.
Poor concentration. She had that, right? She said she was numb. She could not focus. Suicidal thoughts.
Yes.
We know she didn't have a plan, but she had suicidal thoughts, right?
Correct.
So under the Mass General Hospital research project for women that are suffering from postpartum issues, she pretty much hit every one of the postpartum depression symptoms, correct? And then it talks about if it increases in severity, significant anxiety symptoms may occur. Not generalized anxiety. Anxiety symptoms can occur. Is that right?
Correct.
And one of the ways that you determine that is by the tests that it can be administered to a person who is in a postpartum status, and that would be what we talked about, the Edinburgh test, right?
Correct.
And you're aware that she was given the Edinburgh test and had a 23 out of 30, I think it was.
I was not aware.
Okay. And some women develop panic attacks referred to as hypochondriasis. You'd agree with that, right?
Agree with that in reference to.
Lindsay, she had panic attacks and complained of having panic attacks.
Yes.
Okay. Then you can get into the various diagnoses of which, on a postpartum person in that time frame, obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, right?
Correct.
Or bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, right?
Are you using them interchangeably or could develop?
Trust me, say bipolar 1,
Yeah.
okay? So that would be one mental disease, correct?
Correct.
And it's pretty serious stuff, right?
Yes.
And if a person is diagnosed as bipolar, one of the things that you shouldn't, if you know, is prescribe SSRIs such as Prozac or Zoloft, right? If you know.
I'm not sure of that.
Okay. Do you agree that various cases dealing with postpartum depression, all of the symptoms that we talked about, they utilize the Edinburgh Postnatal Depression Scale, which is a 10-item questionnaire that can identify women that have postpartum depression and the severity that they have. And on the scale, a score of 12 or greater raises concern and indicates a need more thorough evaluation, right?
Correct.
Do you know whether she was thoroughly evaluated by anybody other than Tufts and Gelada?
I'm only aware of Tufts and Gelada.
Okay. I mean, you were trying to do the best you could with what you had to work with, right?
Correct.
Okay. We get to postpartum psychosis. That's the third category, right? Postpartum psychosis, you'd agree, is the most severe form of postpartum psychiatric illness. Is that right?
Correct.
Would you agree that it occurs in averages about 2 out of 1,000 women, right?
Correct.
And its presentation can be very dramatic with onset of symptoms, and that can be within a year, according to the Center for Disease Control,
Yes.
right? Okay. And when it just hits you, bang, quick, right?
Correct.
And when you think about 2 out of 1,000 people, seems like a daunting number, but if I tell you that Fenway Park, when they're full, when they're playing the Yankees, they have 37,700 people. If you take the 37,000 people and you multiply it by 2, that would mean as you're sitting there behind first base, 74 women possibly have postpartum psychosis, right?
Not sure of that number, but
Well, if you agree that it's 2 out of 1,000 according to the studies and the statistics, and if Fenway Park has 37,000 seats, times 2 would be 74.
okay.
Pretty large number of people, right? 74 people out of that crowd? Okay. It's not that unusual. I mean, it's something that perhaps you've dealt with in your practice, right?
Yes.
And when you're dealing with people with postpartum psychosis, do you agree that generally they present with an episode of bipolar illness? If you know.
No.
No, they don't, or no, you don't know?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Bottom line is, from your dealing with Lindsay, she appeared to be sincere, right?
Correct.
She appeared to be looking for help, right?
Correct.
She appeared to be hurting, right?
Yes.
Turning in every direction she could for help, right?
Correct.
And the last time you saw her was when?
December 19th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Really smart for the defense to go through with this witness all of the different symptoms or flags for postpartum depression and then turning that into different results of that, which in this case the defense is arguing is that postpartum psychosis. But this witness does not stop here because up next, redirect by the prosecution. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott, honored to be with you today. Lindsay Clancy suffered from depression, anxiety, and intrusive thoughts. But was she experiencing postpartum psychosis on January 24th of 2023 when she took the lives of her 3 young children, Cora, Dawson, and Callan? Well, that's what the defense argues, but will she be held criminally responsible for these killings by the jury of 12? Right now, we want to head back inside the courtroom together. We are about to watch the redirect examination of a therapist who treated Lindsay Clancy in the months before those killings.
Ms. Dukes, you indicated that didn't review the records of Paul or Nurse Gelada.
Correct.
Why?
I wanted to have a fresh set of eyes to look at the situation and to assess it when she came in for her visit. That's typical practice.
And that's why you do an entirely new process, right, where you do your own intake, you assess diagnostics for whether there's any sort of illness, right?
Correct.
And while you can collaborate or speak with the providers about an overall treatment for the patient, you're your therapy.
Correct.
And as far as role, you don't have any role in medication management, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay. So when the note read current medications, is that just based on what pre-fills for the patient, based on their records for the clinic?
Yes.
Okay. And so you don't know what she was prescribed and when and if all of those prescriptions were active. You just know what's in the computer.
Correct.
And as far as the timeline here for the for partial hospitalization, I just want to make sure that we're clear. You had been for some time recommending some sort of partial hospitalization program, correct? On December 12th, you had already talked to Lindsay Clancy about the Women and Infants program, had you not?
Correct.
And so when she told you on the 12th that she was starting that program in Norwell, that wasn't from your referral, right?
No.
And you still recommended women and infants.
Correct.
And you got her consent on that visit, right?
Yes.
And on the 19th, when you saw her, were you aware that she had been at the Mass General ER for evaluation?
No.
And that she had reported then to them that she opted for an outpatient program at women and infants as opposed to going inpatient to McLean? Did you know that?
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. And when you met with her on the 19th, after the visit to the ER, she still hadn't engaged with women and infants, had she?
No.
And so you had to re-refer her.
Yes.
But you weren't aware that she had already gotten a referral from Mass General?
No.
And so you did later learn she went on December 20th, correct?
Correct.
And were you able to review those records about this visit to the 20th? So you don't know that the assessment for her was that they didn't think she qualified for the program, but they provided her with several options for other inpatient treatments for medication management, partial hospitalization, and general mental health. Did you know that?
No.
And as of your last meeting with her on December 19th, ultimately, what were your impressions of how she was doing?
My impression was that her symptoms were improving because of the social aspects, spending time with family and friends and able to exercise when before it was difficult for her to engage or pay attention.
And your observations of her while you were interacting with her, were they more positive than previous occasions?
Yes, she was able to smile and laugh.
Okay, thank you.
What was she laughing about? When was it she was laughing with you?
I believe that was the last visit, the 19th.
So on the 19th, it was on television, or was it in?
It was a virtual visit, a video
virtual visit.
Yes.
And on the 19th, on the virtual visit, what was the purpose of that visit?
The purpose of that visit was to see if she was able to connect with care.
Okay. So you would have, I guess, in your notes or reference to the fact that on the 19th of December that she was laughing.
Not that she was laughing, but that she was able to laugh.
Able to laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm looking here, Letitia, I apologize, Dukes, perinatal health program, and you talk in that form about the date of the service, December 19th, psychotherapy, PCP, Margaret, that would be the primary care, Margaret Anastasia. Perinatal behavioral health program, you talk with the quote, if this is telehealth visit, please dot the phrase video visit, whatever. Therapeutic intervention, she's 32 years old, married, female, presents for postpartum anxiety. Symptom management, patient continues to have low mood and numbness. Numbness. Laughing when she had numbness?
What date are you looking at?
December 19th, the last day you saw her, or the last time you had any contact with her.
She didn't appear to have that, no.
She didn't appear to have what, laughing or numbness?
Numbness.
Well, it says right in the notes, did not, that the patient continues to have low mood and numbness.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want you to say yes. Let's show it to you. So, the patient continues to have low mood and numbness, right?
Correct.
Patient has not had suicidal ideation and did not need crisis intervention over the weekend. In other words, she didn't kill herself, right?
Correct.
To help with the mood, patient has been spending time with her husband, children, and exercising, right?
Yes.
And exercise is one of the things that you would generally, your people would generally recommend, right?
Correct.
That's a good thing to try to do, is to exercise, right?
Correct.
So the fact that the government has records that show that she would take her kids or her husband would take her kids, that they would go to a local gym and exercise or swim, that's consistent with what she was advised, right?
Correct.
It doesn't mean that she's just out there having a good time exercising, right?
Objection.
No, overall.
She was told that that's a good thing to do, right?
Thing to do, but the fact that she's able to follow through and do it shows improvement.
Oh, okay. So when did she go to the gym?
She didn't give me exact dates. These are things that she told me she did.
Did you ever ask her, if you're telling me that, this is showing improvement, is it in the records? Does it indicate that you asked her if she was exercising, and if so, where and when?
So we don't write down everything that we talk about in the meeting. It's particularly a summary of that visit.
Okay. And all I did was ask you about was spending time with her husband, children, and exercising, and then you said that that's an indication that she's improving.
Correct.
Okay. And then I asked you if she's going to a gym. That's not a bad thing, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. And then it says that she received a call, and counsel asked you about this. She received a call from women and infants, but missed the call. Do you remember that? Remember the DA asking you that question? You said that she missed the call.
Yes.
She didn't continue to read that the reason she missed the call is that she was at another medical appointment, right?
Correct.
And she called you back, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Clinician, maybe you, provided contact information for women and infants. Patient reported that she would contact them today, being December 19th, but in fact, she did, and you did with, back it up. She did with your help. She then went the following day on the 20th, right?
Correct.
Okay. And finally, fair to say that nowhere in here does it say that she was laughing?
You would have to go to the assessment, the risk assessment.
Okay, let's do that. You got it? Let me see, please. Now, what's a mental status exam?
So a mental status exam is to assess how the person is appearing that day, their mood and their interaction with you in that visit and how you perceive them.
Okay. So with the help from the DA, we have December 19th, the telemedicine form, clinical notes, right?
Yes.
Laughing wouldn't be in that area, would it?
No, it would be more so in this area.
Yeah, mental status exam, right? Mm-hmm. Appearance, hygiene, WNL.
Within normal limits.
Okay. Normal, eye contact normal, build normal, posture normal, body movement normal, right?
Yes.
Behavior is cooperative, right?
Yes.
And speech is within normal limits, is that correct?
Correct.
Emotional state, affect. Patient reports feeling numb and having low mood for most of the day, right?
Yes.
Facial expression, other. Facial expression, calm, was able to laugh and smile, right?
Yes.
Would that be in response to you saying something funny, or why was she laughing?
That would be in response to me saying something funny.
So you guys were kind of bonding a little bit.
Yes.
All right. But she basically still continued to report that she was numb, having low mood, and basically the symptomology that she had already reported, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
All right, Como. All right, thank you. Thank you. You may step down. Thank you.
Jo-Anna Nieves, criminal defense attorney, still with me. Thank you for watching along with me. Let me ask you this. That defense attorney, for the first time, got a little feisty with this particular witness. He was a little more aggressive when he went up for his recross and really pointing out that the description of she was laughing didn't go hand in hand with her reporting that her hand was numb, and that's not laughing, is it? How effective was it in your mind?
I think it's actually been consistent with his approach with a number of these witnesses, where he's identifying whether or not these words that are on the paper are consistent with the meaning that the prosecution is applying to them. We saw that Tufts, I think he asked her whether or not it said the word not came before a comma, and she was arguing context with him on the stand. So I think what the jury is seeing is that he's not relenting when it comes to clarifying what was written in their actual reports.
I think you're right, but here was part of my concern. Prior to that was the redirect, obviously, by the prosecution. And the prosecution was making a lot of points about things that either the mother didn't disclose to this therapist, such as on the 14th of December, on the 15th of December, she'd gone to visit the ER, and then she saw this therapist on the 19th, but she didn't tell this therapist that she'd been to the ER, that they had offered inpatient or recommended inpatient. And she, the mother, did, Lindsay Clancy, to say, no, I don't want to do that program. I want to go to outpatient. So they're pointing out these things that the mother didn't do. However, I don't think that that necessarily overcomes a postpartum psychosis defense. So I guess what I'm saying is, Jo-Anna, the concern I have is even if a person doesn't adhere to a mental health regime that may be recommended, that doesn't necessarily mean that she was not suffering from postpartum psychosis, or does it?
No, I agree with you in that analysis. I think that, oftentimes our prescribed medication and it says take it until the medication is done. And people only take it until they stop seeing symptoms. It's pretty human behavior to maybe receive instructions and not follow instructions all the way, but it's not necessarily indicative of the fact that the underlying didn't exist. And that's what it really boils down to. Was she suffering from something that made her that takes her criminal responsibility at the time, and so she was able to the wrongfulness of her conduct. When we hear that she scored a 23 on the Edinburgh, cutoff is usually anything over the number 12 that prompts evaluation and is indicative of major postpartum depression. It's not necessarily an indicator that she suffered from PPP, but it's something that should have flagged her providers that she had this a very severe issue that warranted either hospitalization or clear evaluation to determine what was going on with her.
Yeah, I agree with you. That stood out to me as well. That 23 on that exam does provide important information for this jury. Stand by, Jo-Anna. Coming up next, we have a new witness taking the stand. This is a member you can see there of the Duxbury Police Department. We'll get to his testimony up next. Lindsay Clancy, a mother, sent her husband Patrick Clancy to run errands on January 24th of 2023. While he was gone, she strangled all three of their young children, Cora, Dawson, and the baby Callan. Lindsay then jumped out of her bedroom window in an attempt to take her life. Her defense says she was experiencing postpartum psychosis, but the prosecution has another story. And today, Letitia Dukes takes the stand to testify to Lindsay's mental state.
Were there any signs of this or signs of mania or homicidal ideation?
No.
Did you ever see signs of or paranoia?
No.
How about psychosis?
No.
Did you ever have any concerns about the physical well-being of others in her presence?
No.
Did you ever see or observe any signs of mania, delusion, or paranoia?
No.
Any signs of psychosis observed by you?
No.
Her testimony concluded after recross, and now on the stand we have the next witness from the Duxbury Police Department. Let's go into court where the prosecution is beginning direct examination.
All right, good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Buckingham, please.
Thank you. Sir, could you please tell the jury your first and last name?
Cameron Daly,
And how do you spell your first name?
Cameron.
And can you just spell your last name for the record?
Daley.
And where do you work?
Duxbury Police Department.
How long have you been there?
6.5 years.
And back in January of 2023, what was your assignment then?
Patrolman.
And I'm going to draw your attention specifically to January 24th, 2023. Were you asked to do a particular assignment out of Duxbury in that evening?
Yes.
And what were you asked to do?
Report to Brigham and Women's Hospital.
And why were you going there?
For hospital watch of the suspect.
And that individual was Lindsay.
Correct.
Was there already a Duxbury officer on scene at Brigham and Women's when you got there?
Yes, 2.
2?
Yes.
And who were they?
Officer Lepard and Officer Broderick.
And when you arrived at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, were you by yourself or was there somebody else with you?
I was with another officer, Officer Thomas.
Okay. And you able to make observations of the suspect of the defendant, Lindsay Clancy, on that day?
Yes.
And she was asleep, was she not?
Correct.
And she had medical devices attached to her?
Yes.
Was she being treated by the medical staff there at Brigham?
Yes, periodically.
Okay. And were you inside or outside the room, if you know?
Outside the room.
And were any visitors or any other people other than the medical staff in that with her while you were there?
No.
And from 24th into the 25th, what time did you leave the next day on the 25th?
So I reported to the hospital on the 25th.
Oh, okay.
I was there. I arrived at 10 a.m.
So your shift there at the hospital was what?
I got there at 10 a.m. I left about 7 p.m. that night, but it was an 8 to 4 scheduled patrol shift.
And you said that was on the 25th?
Correct.
And you took over for Officer Lepard?
Correct, who were there on the overnight. previous.
Thank you for clarifying. When you left that next evening on the 25th at 7 p.m., was there another Duxbury officer who gave you or who came to relieve you?
No, at that time, State Police Detective McDonald arrived on scene with his crime scene team, and then Plymouth County Sheriff deputies came to take over the hospital watch.
And during that entire shift that you were there, were any attorneys or any other individuals in the room to see Ms. Clancy?
No.
And did you go back to the hospital for any shifts after that day?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Were you in uniform?
Yes.
Had your gun on?
Correct.
Had your badge?
Yes, sir.
The other guy too?
Yes, sir.
You were gonna what? Guide the woman that was tied to the bed?
Correct.
Probably have.
Anything?
Nothing further.
All right, thank you, sir. Let me step down.
Thank you.
All right. So members of the jury, rather than start another witness for just a couple of minutes, we're going to break, take the afternoon recess at this point. The plan would be to come back approximately 2 o'clock, come right back, resume with the Commonwealth's case. I'll remind you again, I think you probably know what I'm going to say. No talking about this case. Don't do any research about this. Don't read anything about it. While you're on break, don't go anywhere that has anything to do with this case. Take the next hour. Just put this out of your head. We'll see you. Thank you.
Court, all right.
All right, you can tell they've gone to break. That was a short witness. Still with me, criminal defense attorney Jo-Anna Nieves. And Jo-Anna, I want to talk about the charges against this mother, and then I want to talk about what you think of the mother, given she's in a wheelchair. We've seen her break down sobbing with some of the descriptions, some of the pictures of her children. But first, first-degree murder charges in the state of Massachusetts, it is defined as either deliberately premeditated with malice aforethought or with extreme atrocity or cruelty or in the or attempted commission of a crime punishable with life or imprisonment. But then second-degree murder, the degree of murder is up to the jury. So if they find that there was malice aforethought, but it doesn't fall within the first degree, then they can move and say, well, it's second degree. So it's an interesting structure, and I think it gives some latitude to the jury, so long as they find that key with malice aforethought and not a psychotic break or postpartum psychosis, then they can say it was either second or first degree murder.
I think that what you're describing is kind of that instance where the jury kind of splits the baby and is like, we're maybe not convinced that she wasn't criminally responsible, but we don't think it was first degree murder, so let's kind of land right here. But realistically, I think if the prosecution is able to prove criminal responsibility beyond a reasonable doubt, and they come to the finding that she was criminally responsible, then the egregiousness of the crime, the 3 toddler victims, the lengths at which this crime took place, and the tools that were used to carry it out, I think that we'll see that it may fall into that kind of atrocious category.
I think you're right. All right, quickly before we go to break, what do you think about the fact she is in a wheelchair? We've seen her break down sobbing. What might the jury take from that? Because we know they're watching her.
Definitely goes both ways on that one. I think some people may feel like you got what you got, and that's the bed, and you now have to lay in it and hear your crocodile tears, and we don't really care about how it's impacting you because those are the decisions you made. And others really may feel sorry for her. I think it depends on their life experiences and how they're receiving the evidence.
Completely agree with you. Life experiences are going to make a big difference in this case, I think, to know, do they have any knowledge of postpartum? Have they been familiar with that? It all comes into play. Stay with us. Jo-Anna will be with us next hour. And coming up next, testimony in this case does resume after lunch. Here is a live look at that courtroom. More after the break.
Duxbury, Massachusetts, a quiet seaside town, was shattered by an unthinkable tragedy. Lindsay Clancy, a young nurse, devoted wife, and mother of 3, was seen as the picture of perfection. But police say behind the smiles and family photos, darkness took hold. On a cold January night, investigators say she strangled her children, Cora, Dawson, and baby Callan. All that before attempting to take her own life. Clancy's husband, Patrick, returned home to a scene of unimaginable horror. Now, the once trusted nurse faces murder charges, as her defense claims she suffered from severe postpartum psychosis. Prosecutors call it calculated. Her attorneys say it's a symptom of a mind lost to illness.
Oh, a hard trial to watch, but so important. I'm Ashley Wilcott. Welcome back to Court TV Live. In today for Julia Jenae. Honored to be with you, where we are covering the trial of Lindsay Clancy. Here's a live look at the courtroom. There is the court seal. We're moments away from testimony resuming. Court is on its lunch break. And as we're waiting, I want to wait and see who is going to be the next witness that takes the stand. Now, you may recall that Clancy admits to killing all three of her children. She used exercise bands in her own home. But the question is, for this jury of 12, is she criminally responsible? It is day 12 of testimony. Cameron Daly takes the stand for the prosecution, one of many witnesses to testify, giving this jury a lot to consider. Joining me now to continue discussing this case, criminal defense attorney Jo-Anna Nieves. Jo-Anna, thank you for staying with us as we're watching all of this unfold. And let's talk a little bit. The first witness out of the chutes in this case, it surprised me a little bit, not that he was the first witness for the prosecution, but rather his testimony was her own husband, who it appears forgiven her for these crimes and testified for the prosecution. What are your thoughts about, number one, the state beginning with her own husband, and number two, a little bit of the demeanor that he had and the forgiveness that he has shown for the acts committed by his wife, killing all three of their children?
I think the state may have been trying to get Patrick Clancy out of the way. Because his testimony kind of leaned towards the defense in some way. Obviously, there was a tremendous loss, but for somebody, the father of all of these children and the husband of the alleged perpetrator of the crime is able to convey this level of understanding of her sickness and kind of a forgiveness, as you mentioned, for what happened. We think about this primacy and recency thing, and we have the opening statements, and yes, he's the first witness, but I think that they're hoping that after all of the experts compounded on top of him, the emotions or the demeanor he had may be lost on the jury.
Yeah, you're right. That might have been the right, good strategy, because the other piece of this is the medical part. And they being the prosecution, have continued to have testimony that she was not bipolar. So I want to listen to a little bit first. Jennifer Tufts is a psychiatrist who has already testified as to the mental health of the mother. Let's take a listen.
Does your note say, and I quote, also discussed possibility of undiagnosed bipolar disorder given extreme reaction to SSRIs and insomnia, period? Does it say that?
Yes.
Did she have bipolar?
No.
Did you make that decision that night, that day?
I assessed that with her pretty much every time that I saw her, and she never had mania.
All right, so this is a psychiatrist. We know this is a psychiatrist. The husband is he's no longer the husband, the father of the children who testified, husband at the time. He has filed a civil lawsuit against different providers and pharmaceutical companies, as I understand it, and one of them is this psychiatrist we just heard from. And so, Jo-Anna, in saying that, no, she's not bipolar, is the onus now on the defense to have to present an expert that says, no, she was in fact bipolar, or can they avoid that and sidestep that by instead having an expert that says she was suffering from postpartum psychosis?
So I think the real answer is that the defense does not have to prove the specific diagnosis in this case. What they're doing is creating doubt about the criminal responsibility. And I do believe another witness testified that she was presenting with, symptoms that made her question whether or not there was like a underlying bipolar issue that was that should not have been, or was kind of indicating with the Zoloft that was prescribed. And so even though one provider may have determined that she was not bipolar, another identified that it was a possibility. And I think that is part of creating the doubt, right? These inconsistent, fragmented analyses by various clinicians that nobody really landed on the true underlying issue.
And let me ask you your opinion about Ben Chu, who was a guest earlier on the show. He made the comment that he was really surprised in this case that there wasn't some type of plea or agreement reached not to try her for being criminally responsible, but rather ensuring that she got the mental health treatment that she needed. Because we know that it doesn't mean she's going to get out tomorrow if the jury agrees, right, that she's not criminally responsible because of mental health diagnoses. It means that she then gets treatment. And so are you surprised that in this particular case, with the facts as you've heard them to be at this point in the trial, that they weren't able to reach some kind of agreement that she gets mental health treatment?
I am not surprised, mainly because I think that's our perspective as defense attorneys. And we live in this idealistic world where we're like, we notice an issue and we want treatment for the issue or rehabilitative means or restoring somebody to competency if it's even possible. And we're looking for that kind of restorative process versus the prosecution is looking for accountability and typically takes this penalistic approach. Not in all jurisdictions, but I think here, when you're faced with such a tragic and heinous type of crime that's under such a high amount of public scrutiny, I am not surprised that the prosecution pushed this along, even if I don't necessarily agree that it may have been the best approach.
And at least at this point in the trial, I feel like both sides' narratives are plausible, right? We haven't heard all the evidence. I don't know where I'll land at the end, but I do think there's argument to be made that her being criminally responsible is equally as plausible as perhaps it was a mental health, such as the postpartum psychosis. Let's listen, though. Some of the other evidence presented by the prosecution so far in this case is from another expert. This is a nurse practitioner, Rebecca Gelada, who also testified about the mental health of the mother, Lindsay Clancy. Let's listen to that.
It means typically not something you would want to do if you were sure somebody had bipolar disorder, because if you put somebody on just an SSRI or like Prozac, like Zoloft, it can create a scenario where people are flipping back and forth between manic symptoms and depressed symptoms, or they're called rapid cycling. It's not that antidepressants or SSRIs are never prescribed in bipolar disorder, but you often would want to have a mood stabilizer on board at the same time.
And so, despite your suspicions, you listened to the patient and went along with her request.
Yes.
Often patients are the ones who self-report, and often patients are left with that final decision. But my question, Jo-Anna, is how hard do you think it is for a jury to assimilate all of this information? They are drinking from a fire hose of individuals who are trained, who have expertise about medical diagnoses, names of prescriptions, what symptoms are. It is a lot of technical information medically, if they're not accustomed to or know it from their everyday life, that they have to really absorb to figure out what they think happened.
You can only hope that they are taking really good notes and that ultimately they ask for readback. And if they have any questions, that they're allowed to ask questions. Various jurisdictions are different on how they allow the jurors to ask questions, whether it's during the course of the proceedings or in deliberations. But that if they need clarity, that they will ask for it. And that, I think, is an indicator of them taking deliberations very seriously when they do look for clarification on particular points. This has been 12 days of testimony, so I would not be surprised if somebody needs a breakdown again of what the testimony was from any witnesses, especially those that are providing expertise and testimony regarding medications.
And I think they're going to have a whole lot more of that testimony from the defense experts. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know that, but I expect that to be true. Jo-Anna, stay with us. We want to take a break while they should be coming back from lunch. There again is a live picture of the courtroom seal. We know that they are returning from lunch break and that will get underway as soon as they are back in that courtroom with a witness. Perfect time for us to squeeze in a break. You won't miss a word. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Court TV Live, where we are bringing you the trial in the state of Massachusetts against Lindsay Clancy. We know that she killed her 3 young children. She admits to that. What we don't know is what this jury is going to do with that. They can either find that she's guilty, criminally responsible for these deaths and finding her guilty of murder, and the alternative, they can agree with the defense that this was postpartum psychosis and that she killed the children as a result of that. Now, what we want to do is show you a live look of the courtroom. The seal is still up. We know that they've returned from the lunch break. We are waiting for them to do that for trial to resume. We also know as soon as they went back in, there was a sidebar. So we don't have any testimony starting yet. Of course, as soon as we have that, we're going to get back in to watch that testimony. It appears as if the prosecution might be wrapping up their case soon. We don't know for sure. In this case, at this time, this mother is charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Interesting, in this state, the jury gets to decide if it's first-degree murder or second-degree murder, if in fact they convict her, and they find second-degree murder if they find there was any malice aforethought by the mother. The prosecution has presented a number of experts and practitioners testifying about the mental health of the mother. While we wait, let's bring in our guest still with us, Jo-Anna Nieves. All right, what is your overall take on this case? As a defense attorney and preparing for cases like this, we know it is a lot of work to prepare for trial, whether you're the prosecution or the defense. It's going along really smoothly from my perspective in terms of these attorneys seem to know their case, they know the facts, they know what they're trying to prove. They're doing a very good job of being, I would say, efficient as a former judge, because it was important to me that attorneys took it seriously and were ready and prepared to try their case. I think that's very true here. What are your overall thoughts?
I couldn't agree more. I think that it's a very complex situation with a lot of expert testimony, but these both prosecution and defense are familiar with what it is they're trying to elicit from these witnesses. I'm very impressed, especially with the way the defense attorney has presented the amalgamation of prescription medication that was taking place and the effects that it could have had on her, and the cross-examination of each of these witnesses, really shedding light on the reports and the inconsistencies therein. And it really, with such a hard set of facts, does create some questions about whether or not she was in touch with reality at the time that this crime occurred.
I just have to show you something that was prepared here, and it's just based on court filings. But this is a list of all the medications she was prescribed, the dates, what they were for, and just to see it like this in one page, you realize that is a lot of information, also a lot of prescriptions that were prescribed. Was she taking them as prescribed? That's a different issue, but anytime you're on this type of medication and you're prescribed, let me just read off, for instance, Zoloft, Ativan, Trazodone, Prozac, Ambien. You remember Ambien defenses? Do you remember this when there were a couple of cases in which individuals committed murder in the middle of the night and they used the Ambien defense and said that they did it because of the side effects of that particular drug? Are you familiar with those cases? I just remember them clear as day.
And I think this may be a smaller version of what the defense attorney had blown up during opening statements that he used as a demonstrative during his opening, and the different color highlights on each one of those medications kind of showing how many different providers were prescribing these various types of medications and the overlap therein. And so I think it really does speak to, this one of the programs even identified that she was over medicated. And you were mentioning, even with the past Ambien defenses, these things do have indications, like contraindications with each other that may have impacted the way she was thinking, the way she was presenting. I hear it and I was like, she had to have been pretty much a walking zombie, but that's the impression that I'm getting from how medicated she was.
I agree with you. So in child welfare, which I did much of my career, sadly, I was involved with a project that was looking at over-medication of young children with mental health diagnoses. And I can tell you, as a matter of fact that was found as findings of fact, that some of these kids were on so many different medications that were contraindicated that they literally wouldn't be able to pick up food and eat it. at all because they weren't able to because of the medication. So they absolutely can have significant effects. What do you expect from the defense? Do you think there's an opportunity they will actually put their client on the stand?
Oh, well, first, what do I expect? I expect to hear from their own experts to highlight all of the things that they've kind of been alluding to throughout this trial and in their opening statements. I do not expect to hear from Lindsay, not because I don't think it could be helpful, but mainly because I'm just not sure what her ability is to kind of communicate what was going on at that time and to assist in her defense. I don't think obviously she's not incompetent because she's there and the trial is progressing, but I don't know that it will have the type of impact on the jury that could be helpful. At the same time, this defense attorney knows his witness, obviously knows his case, and if he thinks that this will humanize her for and really emphasize the issues that she was going through, and the jury can see for herself how she articulates or the lack thereof, he may actually put her on the stand.
It's going to be interesting to see because obviously I think it also depends on how she's doing. We know it's her choice. It's not her attorney's choice, but how she's doing at the time and whether or not she wants a voice in the process. And the strength of the defense expert witnesses, I think, will make a difference as well. We have prepared a mashup of different mental health professionals who have testified up to this point in this trial for the prosecution to prove that, yes, we think, jury, you need to find her criminally responsible. Take a listen.
January 23rd, Friday, you testified that she said her mood was depressed, and you noted that her affect was depressed and flat, right?
Yes.
She also reported that her heart was racing, right?
Sent another message, it's kind of cut off, but it's still within the 10 o'clock hour, where she adds, I also just feel concerningly numb right now. Like I have no emotion whatsoever. I feel like I'm going to die and I don't care. What do I do about this?
I do recall that message, yes.
I assessed her on that day again, and while she was certainly struggling, she did not hospitalization at that moment.
The only thing that you diagnosed Lindsay with on September 15th was GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, correct?
It was generalized anxiety disorder as well as an adjustment disorder with depressed mood.
So as far as in each one of those screens, what did you find as it pertained to this particular patient?
She was significantly high in the GAD-7, which is for generalized anxiety. She scored 21 out of 21, which is they're just screening, so it's not diagnostic, but it did indicate that she was experiencing extreme anxiety. And then with the Edinburgh postnatal depression scale, she scored a 23 out of 30. But the one that I look for the most in that scale is number 10, and she was negative, and that's for suicidality.
When Lindsay Clancy came, are you aware she reported during that clinical evaluation center evaluation that at the beginning of December she had started Seroquel and Remeron and started to have intrusive and suicidal thoughts?
Yes.
That she attributed that to medication?
Yes.
All right, suicidal thoughts attributable to medication. Doesn't that help the defense potentially?
I think it does. I mean, here of these various providers, not only does it seem like they really missed the underlying issue, but it's clear she had she was in severe psychiatric distress. I don't know what it was, but she was deteriorating over time. She was seeking help. She prescribed a number of medications and it wasn't working. I think that this right now, the defense is getting what they're looking for. Do I know whether, I mean, we know what happens in the jury room. I don't know that all of the jurors are going to be, on this one. I myself have been hung from the beginning. So, we've seen, I think maybe the defense's case will shed some more light on what happens.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, I think both sides are plausible. Tell us about nuts and bolts of a case when you try it in court. A sidebar. We know they're still at a sidebar, Jo-Anna. What is the purpose of a sidebar and what might you think they could be discussing? We don't know for sure, but what are some possibilities?
Yeah, so there is usually just discussions about whether it's sometimes evidence or witness testimony that happens outside the presence of the jury. So sometimes it's procedural, sometimes it's evidentiary. Right now, it could be about who the next witness is going to be, maybe if there's any scheduling concerns, whether or not somebody intends to admit some evidence that they're trying to kind of ferret out any objections and any admissibility issues now prior to bringing the jury back in. So typically, those are the things that are happening at sidebar.
And I always think, to your point of the scheduling, because when I was serving as a judge pro tem, I can tell you that often the evidentiary things really had been decided by preliminary motions, right? But that scheduling of a witness is running late, or this witness can't be here, wait a minute, let's go in, they've started, let's jump back into court. And this is how it really goes in court. I was going to say often it can be a scheduling. Maybe a witness can't be here for 2 or 3 days and they have to take the witness out of turn. We don't know yet a perfect time so you don't miss anything. We're going to jump to a break. We'll get you back inside court on the other side. Welcome back to Court TV Live. We want to get you back inside the courtroom. The lunch break has been completed. It's finished. There was a sidebar. The judge is on the bench. Let's go back in and pay special attention when you see the defendant, Lindsay Clancy, in this case.
While we're waiting for the jury, I just kind of remind again that we've got people coming in and out at all times. I want to remind everybody of the pending media order regarding certain pieces of evidence. I also want to remind the warning that I gave, I think it was last week, that there are to be no disruptive statements or anything that's going to disrupt these proceedings. If that's done, they will be dealt with summarily, as we say. All right, so just a warning in regards to that. Okay, you all set? All right, yeah, ready for the jury.
All right, jurors enter. This court's now in session. Please be seated.
Your Honor, for the purpose of the record, we return back to the trial of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. All parties are present, including the defendant and including the 18 jurors.
All right. Everybody, thank you for your patience. That would give you a couple extra minutes to look at the solar eclipse while you're up. So what we're going to do is we're going to return now to the Commonwealth's case. Commonwealth, could I call your next witness, please?
Prior to the witness, Your Honor, I would just move to enter in as the next exhibit the excerpted pages from the South Shore Health System Perinatal Behavioral Health Program regarding the last witness, Letitia Dukes.
Okay, objection?
By agreement, Judge.
All right, so it's by agreement.
226. We would call Nicole Bradley as the next witness, please.
Okay, thank you.
Just for the record, Your Honor, I object. It's not contested. I don't think it's necessary, so I object.
All right, finding.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
You stop right here. Raise your right hand to the clerk, please.
Good afternoon. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony and the evidence you shall give to the court and the jury, the matter now finding between the Commonwealth and the defendant, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you. You may have a seat.
Watch your step, please.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, thanks. Just going to ask you to keep your voice up so the jury can hear you and speak into that microphone, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, come on.
Thank you. Could you please tell the jury your first and last name?
Yeah. Nicole Bradley,
And where do you work?
Plymouth County Sheriff's Department.
What do you do there?
I'm an assistant deputy superintendent of the Field Services Division.
And as one of the roles of the Field Services Division, does the Sheriff's Department engage in what's called hospital watch?
Yes, we do.
Can you tell us very briefly what that is?
Yep. So if any safekeep, detainee, or inmate goes over to the hospital, we use our deputies and matrons to cover them on a security watch.
And are the employees from the Sheriff's Department who are on those watches required to log the activity of who comes and goes from the individuals who they are there to watch?
Yes, they are.
And are those records kept in the normal course of business at the Sheriff's Department?
Yes, they are.
And you're familiar with those records and what they look like?
Yes, I am.
If I may approach.
You want to approach and then?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Then there'll be no objection.
Just going to show you a packet. If you could take a quick look at that.
Yep. Yep.
And does that packet reflect the hospital logs that are kept by the Sheriff's Department?
Yes, they are.
And you're familiar that between January 25th, 2023 and February 3rd of 2023, that the Sheriff's Department engaged in hospital watch on a patient by the name of Lindsay Clancy?
Yes, I am.
All right, those may.
227. No further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Reddington?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Commonwealth calls Dr. Renee Stonebridge.
Same objection as decided by a judge. It's
Okay.
not contested. It's not necessary.
All right. Same finding, same analysis. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
You can stop right there. Raise your right hand to the clerk, please.
Thank you. You may have a seat. Thank you.
Watch your step, please.
All right, Ms. Sprague.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Renee Stonebridge, Renee Stonebridge.
Where do you work?
I work at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts at the Boston office.
And what department do you work for?
I work for the Chief Medical Examiner's office.
And how long have you worked there?
I have worked there since July of 2017.
And can you describe your educational background?
Yes, I did 4 years of college at SUNY at Stony Brook in New York. I was a double major in German languages and literature and biology. And then I did 4 years at the American University of Antigua, where I got my medical degree. I also graduated with honors, magna cum laude. After that, I did a 4-year combined anatomic and clinical pathology residency program at NYU Winthrop Hospital in Long Island, New York. I also served as chief resident during my final year there, so 2016 to 2017. After that, I did a 1-year forensic.
And we know now perhaps why Lindsay Clancy, we could be seen with her hands over her face, appearing to be crying. Well, that's because we are about to hear testimony about the autopsy of Cora. Stay tuned. We'll get you right back into court. Returning now to the trial of Lindsay Clancy, we are about to get into heartbreaking testimony for everyone in that Plymouth, Massachusetts court. Testimony about the autopsies of Cora and Dawson Clancy. Dawson was 3 years old, Cora 5, and Callan was just 8 months old when they were killed by their mother, the defendant in this case. Let's return to court now. A medical examiner is on the stand to testify about those autopsies.
And were you tasked with doing some examinations regarding Cora Clancy, Dawson Clancy, and Callan Clancy?
Yes.
And specifically for Cora Clancy, what did you examine?
For Cora Clancy, I examined the eyes.
And what were your findings when you examined her eyes?
The findings when I examined the eyes were that there was acute hemorrhage of the extraocular muscles and adipose tissue. So when the eyes are taken out, this happens after the brain comes out of the skull. And there is a thin portion of bone in the bottom frontal portion of the skull where that bone is broken and the eyes can then be examined on the inside of the head. Obviously, they're examined also on the outside of the head as well. But you can look at the optic nerve and you can look at the tissue that is surrounding the eyes. So the eyes are within the head with some muscle and some adipose tissue. So there is hemorrhage in these portions of adipose tissue and muscle that is surrounding the eye itself. And then also one of the findings was that the optic nerve sheath on the left side has some punctate hemorrhage. So the eyes, they're sitting in the head, and then there's the optic nerve that connects to the back of the eye and goes to the brain, which sends these signals so people can see. And there was some hemorrhage in this portion surrounding the nerve that connects the left eye.
And are you able to determine by seeing these hemorrhages what caused them?
Hemorrhages themselves are a very general finding. However, given the entirety of the case, knowing what I know from the autopsy findings, I can say it is consistent with something asphyxial.
And why is it that when there's something asphyxial, that means strangulation of some type, correct?
Yes, it can be.
Why is it that these types of hemorrhages occur in the eye?
What happens when there's some sort of asphyxial element to a person, it could be from many different things, but what happens is the blood in the head, if there's, say, some type of compression of the neck or something else that causes asphyxia, there's many things, but if there's some sort of compression, the blood basically gets stuck in the head area. And because the blood can't flow back down through the body, what happens is there's little tiny blood vessels. They're in the eyes, they're in the skin, in the mouth, all over the head region. They basically get blocked up with this blood because it can't move. And these little blood vessels will burst, which leads to these little hemorrhages.
And
In terms of Dawson Clancy, what did you examine with Dawson Clancy?
For Dawson Clancy, I examined the eyes as well.
And what were your findings?
The findings were that there was also some acute hemorrhages in these muscle and adipose tissue surrounding the eyes. And then the right eye had some small hemorrhages in the posterior retina and the optic nerve sheath. So the back of the eye, there's the retina within the eye, and the retina connects with the optic nerve at the back portion of the eye. And in this case, there was a little bit of hemorrhage at that connection point where the retina connects to the optic nerve.
And what is hemorrhage?
Hemorrhage itself is just blood that is no longer contained in a blood vessel.
So it's burst from that vessel?
Correct.
And then in terms of Callan Clancy, what did you examine with Callan Clancy?
For Callan Clancy, I examined the brain, the dura, the spinal cord, and the eyes.
And what were your findings?
The findings were that there was hypoxic ischemic changes. Essentially, that means that there has been some sort of incident which has caused the brain to have a certain period of time in which blood and oxygen flow were not appropriate. So in this case, there was a time frame in which there was no blood going to the brain, there wasn't enough oxygen going to the brain, and the brain will show certain findings in these sort of circumstances. One of the things I note is that there's edema. Edema is when the brain starts to swell. Edema is also a very general finding. It can happen in many instances, but the edema basically means that the brain starts to swell, so you don't have the nice kind of bumpy pattern on the brain. It starts to swell up and it gets a little more flattened because the brain is encased in the skull, so now it's pressing against the skull because it's swelling up and getting bigger. One of the other things I noted with that was that there was compression of the ventricles. So the ventricles are almost like a tunnel system inside the brain that allow for the cerebral spinal fluid to flow through the brain and go into the spinal cord. And when the brain starts to swell up, it not only swells up outwards, but swells inwards on itself as well. So these ventricles that are located in the inside portion of the brain are starting to get kind of squashed because the brain is swelling. Another thing I noted was that the brain was diffusely friable, meaning that it's very soft. So one of the things I do on all my brain cases is they go into formalin. The formalin allows them to fix, which basically firms up the tissue. And it makes the tissue more easy to manipulate. A fresh brain coming out of a skull is very soft. It's very easy to damage it. It's very easy to put your fingers through it if you're not careful. So one of the things that gets done is these brains will go into formalin. I typically will let them fix for about 2 weeks or so. And sometimes, regardless of the fixation time at the formalin, sometimes the brain still will not firm up the way it should, because if I'm receiving a brain and it's already has hypoxic ischemic changes, the formalin is only going to penetrate the tissue so much because the tissue is essentially already dead.
Can I just stop you for a second? What is hypoxic ischemic changes? Hypoxic
ischemic changes is when you are getting lack of blood and oxygen flow. So hypoxic is the oxygen portion and ischemic is the blood portion.
So what you saw with Callan's brain was consistent with a lack of blood and oxygen?
Correct, yes.
Which then led to brain death?
Correct, yes.
How long, based on your training and experience, does it take for a brain to start dying after the loss of blood flow and oxygen?
It varies based on different sources. Most sources say it's between about 6 to 8 minutes. If there is no oxygen flow, then the brain will essentially start dying. It depends on, if there's resuscitation that occurs afterwards, but it's generally in the frame of 6 to 8 minutes or so.
And once brain tissue dies, it can't be brought back, correct?
Correct, yes.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's bring back in criminal defense attorney Jo-Anna Nieves, and we're keeping it on this picture because you can see Lindsay Clancy there, Jo-Anna, and we saw earlier it looked like she was crying. She has her head down. She's been crying in court. She cried on the first testimony of one of the autopsies there. You can see her sobbing. Horrible testimony to have to hear about the brain dying and how long it takes and the reality of what happens when you strangle your children. Weigh in.
Oh, yeah. We can definitely see that she's distraught. She's crying. I mean, her defense attorney is comforting her. And I think the we got some insight about what may have been happening at sidebar, that discussion that this testimony is not necessary. They're not contesting it because, of course, the defense, not only to, protect his client from going through this roller coaster of emotions, but if he can limit the amount of times the jury hears this type of information about the egregious circumstances, that's what he's going to try to do. And I imagine that the judge was weighing whether it was more probative than prejudicial. The prosecution has the right to put on their case and establish every element of the crimes. And I think that's why we're hearing this testimony over his objection.
And did you note that proactive statement by the judge before the testimony started, which was just a reminder there's a pending media order, no disruptive statements or disruptive behaviors. And I like that approach. A judge needs to manage their courtroom because it's not about just the facts and the law. It's also managing all the personalities and different things that can potentially happen to make certain that that jury is not biased and makes a decision based on the evidence presented.
Absolutely. I think that is one of the key components of what a judge is supposed to do: manage their courtroom, keep things in order, move things along efficiently, and make the evidentiary decisions as they come their way. One of the things that we see is that she was obviously distraught, upset, and so that may have been directed towards the defense side, in anticipation that she may have been overwhelmed with emotion and doesn't want the jury kind of taking that in a sympathetic way. But it could also be for those people in the audience who are observing what's going on, especially if there's family members there.
So I know from my perspective as a judge, if a defendant is crying or anyone in the courtroom is crying, that's understandable. It's emotional, but you have to stop it if it becomes distracting in any way. Is it distracting, in your opinion, to watch her there really sobbing? She's containing herself and trying to lock it down, it looks like, but still, the jury is watching her sobbing as she's listening to this. Is that disruptive or not, in your opinion, as a defense attorney?
Practically speaking, I think it is sending a message, even though we know the defendant is not required to testify, not required to make any statements. The crying and the emotional part behind it does send a message that this is affecting her in some way, and it may gain sympathy with some jurors. So I do think that taking a moment for people to, especially the defendant, to regain composure is something that we would expect the judge to do, especially if it becomes kind of overwhelming.
And you can't prevent human emotions, but you do have to continue to remind, and the judge did say that. And I think the judge was addressing the defendant as well as everybody else in the courtroom, because you cannot allow anyone in the courtroom to act in a way that can unduly influence a jury and cause a mistrial. So you really have to be on top of that. I think this judge is. Jo-Anna, delightful to visit with you about all of these many things going on. As we know, the defense will present its case eventually, but right now the prosecution is still going. Stay with us. We'll bring you more here on Court TV.
Don't forget to like and share this video, and for more legal insights, keep watching and subscribe to our channel.